What if the very thing you believe is keeping you safe is actually what's holding you back? Think about it for a moment. How many times have you silenced your truth to please others? Compared your life to someone else's highlight reel, or clung to company that left you emptier than before? Has this ever happened to you? These moments shape us more than we realize, and yet they are also the very barriers that stand between who we are and who we could become. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Honesty, for example, is often uncomfortable. It can strip away illusions and even cost you a few friends. But it also becomes the magnet that pulls the right people closer. Being honest is not about perfection. It's about alignment. When your words match your values, you naturally filter out those who don't belong and attract those who do. What you're about to discover might surprise you. Living authentically may leave you with fewer connections, but it will fill your life with stronger ones. And then there's the quiet trap of comparison. We scroll, we measure, we envy, often forgetting that every second wasted comparing is a second stolen from our own growth. Comparison drains the present. It blinds us to what we already have and paralyzes us from moving forward. If you've ever felt weighed down by this invisible competition, you're not alone. Stay with me until the end, because the way out of this loop might be simpler than you think. Still, the challenge doesn't stop there. Many of us carry the belief that happiness depends on who we have around us. But here's the truth. If you need company to feel complete, your joy is fragile. Solitude is not weakness. It is power. To sit alone and still feel full is one of the deepest forms of strength you can cultivate. Imagine no longer depending on the presence of others to validate your worth. Imagine standing firm, even when the world feels empty. That's when real freedom begins. And what about the temptation to share every single plan with the world? Have you noticed how declaring your goals too early can drain your motivation? Broadcasting your intentions often creates pressure without progress, while quietly showing your results speaks louder than any promise. Think of progress as a seed. It grows best in silence, only revealing itself when it's ready to bloom. Protect that seed, nurture it, and when it finally sprouts, let the results speak for themselves. These truths may feel challenging, even uncomfortable, but discomfort is not the enemy. It's the gateway. The more we lean into honesty, detach from comparison, and embrace solitude, the more unshakable we become. And the fascinating part is, once you stop seeking external approval, life opens doors that were always there. You just couldn't see them through the noise. We're only scratching the surface. Ahead lies a deeper exploration into what it really means to live aligned, resilient, and free from the illusions that hold so many people back. The next step will reveal why these simple shifts can transform not only the way you see yourself, but the way you navigate every relationship, every choice, and every challenge you face. Stay with me, because what comes next may change the way you view your own journey. If you're drawn to reflections like these, and want more insights that challenge your perspective and guide your growth, make sure to subscribe. That way, each new video becomes part of your own journey of transformation, arriving right when you need it most. Fear has a strange way of disguising itself. Most people see it as an obstacle, something that blocks the path and whispers that moving forward is too risky. But if you pay close attention, you'll notice fear is less of a wall and more of a compass. It points directly to what matters most. Every meaningful transformation, every breakthrough, carries fear as its shadow. Think about the decisions you've hesitated to make, the opportunities you've delayed, the truths you've avoided saying out loud. Behind each one was fear, quietly highlighting the hidden truth that this moment carried weight. When you realize fear doesn't exist to stop you, but to guide you, your entire mindset begins to shift. You stop running away from it and instead start leaning into the impact it's signaling. Taking responsibility for your life doesn't mean drowning in seriousness or carrying unnecessary burdens. It means standing tall and saying, "This is mine to face, and I won't hand it over to excuses." At the same time, you don't need to weigh yourself down with perfection or self-importance. The art lies in balance, knowing that your journey matters deeply, but also being light enough to laugh at yourself, to see behind the scenes that no one truly has it all figured out. Responsibility is power, not punishment. It gives you control over the story you're writing, while fear simply hands you the pen and shows you the page that still waits for your words. But here's where many people stumble, letting fleeting emotions decide permanent directions. Anger, sadness, euphoria, they surge like waves, powerful but temporary. How many lives have been altered by decisions made in the storm of a moment? A text sent in fury, a choice sealed in grief, a promise made in excitement only to be regretted once the tide receded. Decisions last, moods pass. The revelation here is simple but profound. Your future deserves the clarity of your calm, not the chaos of your impulses. By learning to pause, to breathe, you protect yourself from building a life out of temporary reactions. And then comes another hidden trap, the pedestal. We've all been guilty of elevating someone, believing their light makes ours smaller. When you place people above you, you automatically place yourself below them. You create a distance that was never meant to exist. The truth is, no one belongs on a pedestal, not your partner, not your mentor, not even the voices you admire most. Respect, yes. Admiration, absolutely. But never elevation so high that you shrink in your own eyes. When relationships are level, when the ground is shared, connection becomes authentic. Otherwise, what you build will always tilt under the imbalance. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when you put these pieces together, responsibility, awareness of emotions, and balanced relationships, you start to notice the invisible architecture of a stronger life. It's not built on grand gestures, but on small, conscious choices. A decision to pause before reacting. A choice to embrace fear instead of fleeing. A refusal to give away your worth by idolizing others. Each of these shifts may seem small, but together they mark the difference between living on autopilot and living with intention. They create a hidden foundation that, though unseen, determines the weight your future can carry. As you reflect on this, notice what resonates within you. Perhaps it's the moment you realize fear has always been pointing to your most important paths. Or maybe it's the recognition of how emotions have dictated choices that didn't reflect who you truly are. Or even that subtle awareness of how often you've given others a higher seat than yourself. Write it down. Let it anchor you. And if you feel this truly connects, I want you to mark it here by writing in the comments, "This makes sense to me." Because when you put it into words, you don't just agree with the idea, you declare that you're ready to live it. Advice is one of those things that sounds like a gift, but more often than not, it's a mirror. People speak from their own fears, their own ambitions, their own invisible scars. What they call guidance is usually a reflection of the battles they've fought or the ones they've avoided. When someone tells you not to take a risk, it may be because they once took one and failed, or perhaps because they never had the courage to try and still carry the weight of that regret. The hidden truth is that advice is almost always projection, and if you follow it blindly, you end up walking someone else's path instead of your own. The key is not to dismiss it, but to filter it. Take it in, hold it up to the light, and then weigh it against your own context. Does it align with your values, your vision, your journey? If not, leave it where it belongs in their story, not yours. This is why silence becomes so powerful. The world is noisy, filled with people eager to give their opinions, and sometimes we become part of that noise without realizing it. We pour our thoughts out loud, half-formed, unfiltered, only to discover later that words spoken in haste are words we can't take back. Not every thought deserves airtime. There is wisdom in restraint, in allowing ideas to breathe in private before releasing them into the world. Because once they leave your mouth, they stop belonging to you and begin shaping how others see you. And here lies a subtle revelation. Your voice is more powerful when it is selective, when you speak only what carries weight, what requires no lies or excuses afterward. Behind the scenes of every strong, steady person, you'll usually find the same habit. They think deeply, but they speak with intention. And then comes the question that seems so simple, yet sits at the heart of transformation. Where does happiness really come from? For many, the answer is tangled in the past, in promises made to their younger selves, or in stories they feel obligated to continue. But here's the truth. You don't owe your past self anything. You are not bound to keep old promises that no longer serve the person you're becoming. The real investment is always in the present version of you. Happiness is not a reward from yesterday, or a debt you need to pay to who you once were. It is an inside job, built, moment by moment, in how you care for yourself now. Self-care isn't just about rituals or routines. It starts with awareness. It's recognizing when you're standing in your own way, when the weight you're carrying isn't from others, but from the expectations you've placed on yourself. It's noticing the decisions that drain you, the comparisons that weaken you, the stories you repeat that no longer fit. The impact of this realization is profound. Once you stop sabotaging yourself, the external struggles become lighter. You see, the journey of happiness doesn't begin with the world treating you better. It begins with you treating yourself better. That's where freedom takes root, when you stop waiting for external permission and start creating internal alignment. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because once you understand that advice is filtered through someone else's lens, that silence often speaks louder than noise, and that happiness is created within, a new layer of awareness opens up. It changes the way you receive counsel, the way you use your words, and the way you measure your own worth. It's as if you've been looking at life through a fogged window, and suddenly the glass clears. What once felt complicated now feels simple, not because the challenges disappeared, but because your perspective shifted. If this resonates with you, write it down to make it real. And to anchor this reflection, I'd love for you to put in the comments, "I choose my own path." Because by writing it, you're not just reacting, you're declaring that your happiness, your voice, and your decisions are yours to own. Overthinking has a way of convincing you that you're being careful when, in truth, you're just paralyzing yourself. It dresses itself up as preparation, but behind the scenes it magnifies problems, stretches shadows into monsters, and distorts reality until even the simplest decisions feel unbearable. The hidden truth is that clarity rarely comes from thinking. More, it comes from deciding. Every loop of doubt is energy wasted, and most of the questions that keep you awake at night lose all their weight when you ask yourself one simple thing: will this even matter in 10 years? Suddenly, what once felt overwhelming shrinks into perspective. What you feared was monumental becomes manageable. This shift in mindset is not about ignoring problems, but about recalibrating how much power you give them. The more you practice this, the more you notice how much lighter your journey feels, because the unnecessary noise begins to fade. But while thoughts can trap you, your body is the stage where every decision plays out. You can replace possessions, rebuild careers, even repair relationships, but you cannot trade in the vessel you inhabit. This body carries you through every transformation, and how you treat it determines the quality of every experience you'll ever have. Too often, people neglect it, pushing limits, numbing pain, forgetting that this is the one piece of equipment they'll live in for life. Respecting it is not vanity, it is survival. It's the foundation of every dream, every plan, every victory. Imagine your body as the silent partner in every decision. It absorbs your late nights, your stress, your habits. It remembers even when you try to forget, and the impact of that neglect becomes clearer with time. The truth is simple. You are not separate from your body's condition. Your energy, your focus, even your courage are amplified or diminished by how well you care for it. And then there is the resource that frames everything: time. The hours given to you are the purest form of power you'll ever hold. Money, opportunities, recognition, none of it exists without the moments you invest. Yet time is also the resource most carelessly spent. People give it away to distractions, to comparisons, to battles that don't belong to them, forgetting that every hour compounds into a lifetime. The most important decisions you'll ever make are not just about what you do, but about where you allow your time to flow. Will it be drained by what doesn't matter, or invested into what builds, grows, and lasts? This is where the real transformation takes place, not in grand declarations, but in the daily, quiet choices that shape the direction of your life. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when you combine clarity of mind, respect for your body, and mastery of your time, something remarkable happens. You begin to experience life differently. Problems feel smaller, energy feels stronger, and days feel longer, not because the world has changed, but because you've aligned with what truly matters. This is the hidden architecture of freedom, a mindset unburdened by unnecessary thought, a body capable of carrying your vision forward, and time invested where it multiplies, instead of disappearing. If these words resonate with you, pause for a moment and let them sink in. And to anchor this reflection, I invite you to write in the comments, "I choose clarity," because the moment you declare it, you begin to live it, reminding yourself that the power to focus, to care for your vessel, and to master your hours has always been in your hands. Comparison is one of the most subtle thieves of joy. It slips in quietly, disguised as motivation, but instead of pushing you forward, it weighs you down. You look at someone else's highlight reel, their carefully curated victories, their moments polished for the world, to see, and suddenly your own life feels smaller, less significant. But here's the hidden truth. You're comparing your behind the scenes with their best performance. You're measuring your quiet struggles against their public triumphs. And the distortion this creates is dangerous, because it convinces you that your lows are proof of failure, when in reality, they are proof that you are human. Authenticity never goes out of style. To be yourself, without apology, is the boldest declaration of strength. Because while others may chase approval, your journey becomes about alignment living in a way that your soul recognizes as true. That's where transformation really begins, not in fitting into someone else's mold, but in embracing the raw, unfiltered version of who you are. And then comes the weight of longing. Missing someone can feel like gravity, pulling you backward into memories and emotions you thought you had escaped. But missing is not the same as needing. Longing is part of the healing process, a sign that your heart remembers what once was, not a mandate to reopen doors that were closed for a reason. Too often, people mistake that ache for a call to return, forgetting that healing requires space. Missing someone is not proof that they should be in your present. It's proof that they were part of your past. And in this delicate balance, the revelation appears. You can honor what you had without shackling yourself to it. You can feel the impact of their absence while still protecting your own future. This is where emotional maturity takes root. When you understand that letting go is not betrayal, it is a decision to move forward with clarity and strength. The way we choose partners, friends, and even mentors reveals so much about our values. At first, attraction can be powerful, even blinding. But beauty is fragile. It bends with time. It shifts with age. What lasts, what truly sustains, are values. Character raises children, builds homes, sustains love when the spark of novelty fades. Looks can open a door, but only integrity keeps it open. Behind the scenes of every lasting bond is a foundation not of appearances, but of principles, kindness, honesty, resilience, responsibility. This is the hidden architecture of meaningful connections, the decision to choose substance over surface. Because when storms come, and they always do, it isn't beauty that steadies a family, it's values. It isn't attraction that holds you together through hardship. It's shared principles. And the impact of recognizing this truth changes not only how you see others, but also how you see yourself. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because once you stop comparing your lows to others' highlights, once you separate longing from need, and once you start choosing values over appearances, the journey transforms. You begin to navigate life with a new kind of vision, one that isn't distracted by illusions, but grounded in what is real. This shift is like stepping out of a dimly lit room into daylight suddenly. Things are sharper, clearer, and the path forward feels less heavy. If this resonates with you, let it echo in your own story. And to make it real, I'd love for you to write in the comments, "I choose what lasts," because that simple phrase is more than words. It's a reminder that you're not chasing illusions anymore. You're building a foundation for a life that endures. Every decision we make is a negotiation with time and energy. Saying yes to one thing is always saying no to another, and this hidden truth shapes the direction of our lives more than we realize. When you agree to something out of fear, guilt, or habit, you are quietly closing the door on opportunities that could align with your real purpose. The impact of this becomes clear over years when you look back and see not just what you did, but also what you silently declined by default. Life is a constant series of trade-offs, and the question is never whether you'll sacrifice, but what you'll sacrifice. The difference lies in choosing consciously, in deciding with clarity what is worth your yes and what must be protected with a no. That's where transformation of mindset begins. When you stop drifting and start owning your choices as deliberate expressions of who you are becoming. And then there is the matter of friendship, the behind-the-scenes truth about who really stands with you. Many people will smile in your presence, but vanish in your absence. Others will flatter you to your face, yet gossip the moment you turn away. But a true friend is revealed in the silence when you're not around, and in the uncomfortable moments when honesty requires confrontation. They defend you when there is nothing to gain, and they challenge you when it would be easier to stay quiet. This is the paradox of real loyalty. It feels like support and correction at once. And though it stings to be told truths you don't want to hear, that sting is often the very thing that saves you from mistakes you can't afford. In a world obsessed with appearances, those rare souls who protect your name in private and sharpen your vision in person are priceless. They don't just walk beside you, they help shape the path you're walking on. Letting go, however, is where the journey tests you the most. Release feels like loss, because part of you clings to the familiar, even when the familiar is already decaying. It's natural to hold on, to believe that tightening your grip will somehow preserve what is slipping away. Yet the hidden truth is that clinging costs more than releasing. It drains your energy, it clouds your judgment, and it blocks the space where new beginnings are waiting. Letting go hurts. Of course, it always does. But it is also the quiet medicine of life, the wound that eventually closes, the burden that lightens, only once you finally set it down. And time, if you allow it, becomes the healer, filling the gaps with perspective and growth. This is the rhythm of the human journey, choices that define your trade-offs, friends who reveal themselves in truth and absence, and moments of release that demand courage. Each piece, though painful at times, builds into a transformation that cannot be seen in the moment, but becomes undeniable in hindsight. It's the kind of transformation that shifts not only how you live, but how you see the very fabric of your life. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when you understand the weight of trade-offs, the rarity of true loyalty, and the liberation found in release, something inside of you begins to shift. You stop chasing validation and start valuing clarity. You stop clinging to what was and begin preparing for what will be. And that shift creates a new foundation for the decisions ahead. If this resonates with you, leave a simple phrase in the comments. I choose clarity. Write it not just as a reaction, but as a declaration to yourself, because clarity, once chosen, changes everything. Fear has a way of disguising itself as an immovable wall, when in reality, it is more like a doorway waiting to be opened. Each time you face it, the frame weakens, and what once seemed unshakable becomes something you can walk through with ease. Courage isn't born in grand gestures. It's sculpted in small, repeated acts that quietly reshape your mindset. The hidden truth is that bravery doesn't arrive fully formed. It is trained into existence by choosing not to retreat. Every time you lean toward what scares you, you're writing a different story about yourself, one where you're no longer defined by hesitation, but by transformation. And soon, the things that once felt terrifying become markers of how far you've traveled on this journey. But courage also requires discernment, especially in relationships. Too often we pour our time, energy, and attention into someone who sees us only as a convenience. It's one of the most draining trade-offs when you make someone a priority, and they keep you as an option. The impact on your dignity is subtle at first, but it grows heavier with each compromise. This is where boundaries become an act of self-respect. Protecting your energy isn't selfish. It's the foundation for preserving your worth. You cannot transform your life if you are constantly bending yourself around people who refuse to match your effort. The moment you align your priorities with those who genuinely reciprocate, your relationships shift from being a source of depletion to becoming a source of strength. And that shift is not just personal, it echoes into every other part of your life, shaping your confidence, your decisions, and even the opportunities you're able to see. Listening, on the other hand, is the hidden skill most people overlook. We were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, but somewhere along the way, we reversed the ratio. The truth is, transformation often happens in silence, when you're absorbing more than you're broadcasting. Behind the scenes of every meaningful connection is the art of listening, not just to words, but to tone, pauses, and what remains unsaid. Speaking too quickly often reveals what we don't fully understand, while listening deeply creates clarity and presence. It is in that stillness that wisdom shows itself. Conversations are not competitions of who speaks more. They are journeys into understanding, and the best insights often emerge when you allow space for the other person's story to unfold. When you put these ideas together, facing fears through repetition, protecting your dignity with boundaries, and embracing the discipline of listening, you begin to see life less as a chaotic stream of events and more as a crafted path you are actively shaping. Each fear confronted is a rehearsal for the next. Each boundary honored is a declaration of your value. Each moment of listening is a door into greater connection and understanding. These are not separate lessons, but threads of the same fabric, weaving resilience and clarity into the way you move through the world. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the more you understand how courage expands, how boundaries protect, and how listening transforms, the more you begin to realize that growth isn't random, it is deliberate, and it leaves a lasting imprint on the journey ahead. And I'd love to hear your perspective. Write in the comments, "I choose courage," if this resonates with you. Put it there not just as a phrase, but as a reminder to yourself that fear will shrink each time you decide to face it. Change has always been the silent protagonist of our story, moving through every chapter whether we welcome it or resist it. You live many lives within a single lifetime, and each one demands a different version of you. At first, it feels like loss shedding skins, leaving behind familiar identities, saying goodbye to what once defined you. But beneath that discomfort lies the hidden truth. Adaptation isn't about abandoning who you are. It's about expanding into who you can be. When you allow change to step fully into its role as the main character, life begins to feel lighter, less like a battle against inevitability, and more like a dance with possibility. What once seemed like chaos reveals itself as transformation in motion, a constant unfolding that makes the journey richer, more textured, more alive. In this unfolding, people often reveal themselves, not with their words, but with their actions. Promises are easy, declarations cost nothing, but patterns are impossible to hide. Watch closely, and you'll notice how consistency, or the lack of it, exposes someone's true nature. The impact of this realization is liberating. Instead of getting lost in explanations, excuses, or sweet words, you simply observe. Actions tell the story behind the scenes, showing who someone really is when no spotlight is on them. And when you believe those patterns instead of clinging to illusions, you protect your time, your energy, and your heart. The revelations this brings can be painful, but they are also necessary. Trusting what you see, rather than what you're told, becomes one of the most powerful decisions you can make, because it anchors you in reality, rather than wishful thinking. Yet, in the moment, so much of this feels disjointed. You make choices, face disappointments, push forward with effort, and often wonder if any of it will add up to something meaningful. That's the struggle of living in real time. You can't always see how the dots will connect. But commitment is the spark that begins everything, the decision that sets you in motion. Consistency is the quiet rhythm that keeps you moving, the daily steps that seem small but accumulate into impact. And persistence is the fuel that carries you when momentum slows, when results feel distant, when the temptation to quit whispers in your ear. The hidden truth is that dots rarely connect in the present. They reveal their pattern only in hindsight. What feels random and fragmented today may be the very foundation of the story you'll be proud to tell tomorrow. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when you embrace change as an ally, when you let actions rather than words guide your perception, and when you trust that dots connect in their own time, a new kind of mindset begins to take shape. It's a mindset that doesn't need to control everything to feel safe. It allows room for uncertainty without losing direction, and it finds meaning even in the messy middle of the journey. This shift is not about blind optimism. It's about grounded faith in the process, about recognizing that the transformation you're going through, though not yet complete, is already shaping the life you're meant to live. If this speaks to you, I invite you to make it tangible. Write in the comments, "I trust the process," because writing it isn't just about agreeing. It's about claiming the reminder that every step, every change, every connection is part of something larger you may not yet see, but will one day understand. Purpose often feels like a treasure hidden somewhere far away, something you have to chase endlessly until you stumble upon it. But the hidden truth is that purpose is not found, it's created. It doesn't appear fully formed, waiting for you to discover it. It takes shape in the decisions you make, in the way you choose to live each day, in the meaning you give to the ordinary. Too many people wait for a revelation, a moment of clarity that never comes, because they don't realize purpose begins exactly where they are, with what they already hold in their hands. Transformation isn't about searching outside, it's about building within, about crafting meaning out of the tools and opportunities that exist in your present. This mindset shifts the weight of purpose from a distant ideal to a living practice, something that evolves as you evolve, expanding with every step of your journey. Alongside this creation comes the discipline of gratitude. Gratitude is not just about saying thank you. It's about reprogramming the lens through which you see the world. When entitlement takes over, life feels lacking, no matter how much you have. But gratitude unlocks the opposite. It multiplies. What you appreciate truly appreciates, expanding not only in your perception, but also in the way life responds to you. The impact of gratitude is often invisible at first, like seeds beneath the soil, but over time, it transforms your mindset, grounding you in abundance rather than scarcity. It prevents you from overlooking the quiet blessings, the behind-the-scenes gifts that often go unnoticed. Gratitude doesn't erase struggle, but it reframes it, reminding you that even in difficulty, there is growth, and even in limitation, there is something to value. The revelation here is simple yet powerful. Gratitude attracts more of what sustains, while entitlement leaves you blind to what you already have. But gratitude without action is incomplete. Thinking about what you want to do, waiting for the perfect moment, analyzing every possible outcome, these cycles rarely bring clarity. In fact, they often cloud it. The only thing that clears the fog is movement. Action, even imperfect action, cuts through confusion faster than endless thought ever could. The hidden truth is that you can't think your way into a new life. You must act your way into one. Each step you take, no matter how small, becomes feedback. A signal pointing you toward what works and what doesn't. Behind the scenes, action is the quiet architect of transformation. It builds momentum, reshapes identity, and proves to you that change is possible. While thought keeps you in theory, action plants you firmly in reality. And reality is where life actually shifts. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when you start crafting purpose, instead of waiting to find it, when you choose gratitude over entitlement, and when you allow action to lead thought, the entire framework of your life changes. You no longer feel like a passive participant waiting for clarity. You become an active creator shaping clarity through the way you live. This isn't about dramatic overnight changes. It's about steady, conscious steps that over time transform both the direction of your path and the way you experience the journey itself. If this resonates with you, let it echo beyond just listening. Write in the My comments, "I create my purpose," as a reminder to yourself that meaning isn't something you wait to receive. It's something you decide to build, starting exactly where you are. The way you see the world is often more powerful than the circumstances themselves. Two people can face the same challenge, yet one feels crushed while the other discovers strength. The difference is not in the event, but in the mindset. When you begin to understand that happiness is not some distant prize at the end of a long struggle, but the actual road beneath your feet, everything shifts. Happiness is woven into the way you walk, not into the place you arrive. If you believe joy is always later, you never notice it now. The hidden truth is that your mindset is a lens, coloring every experience. A grateful, open lens reveals opportunities even in pain, while a fearful, closed lens blinds you to the beauty standing right in front of you. Transformation begins not when life changes, but when perception does. Because perception quietly builds the foundation of your reality. But perspective alone is not enough. We are social beings, and advice often becomes part of our decision-making. Yet here lies a subtle trap. Not all counsel is created equal. Asking for guidance is wise, but who you choose to listen to shapes the direction of your journey. People can only advise from their own experiences, their own limits, their own fears. If you ask someone who has never dared to build, they will warn you of the risks. If you ask someone who has created, they will show you possibilities. Wisdom lies in filtering advice, in discerning whether the voice speaking into your life is pulling you forward or holding you back. Behind the scenes of every strong decision is the discipline of choosing carefully whose perspective you let shape your own. And then comes fear, the ever-present shadow that whispers limits into your ear. Most boundaries you feel are not carved in stone, but drawn in your mind. Fear expands when ignored, but it shrinks under control. To manage it is to understand that it does not vanish. It transforms. It becomes smaller every time you confront it, every time you prove to yourself that you can move even while trembling. Fear is not your enemy. It is energy that, when channeled, becomes focus, alertness, even courage. The revelation is this: fear will always exist, but it does not have to dominate. Either you manage it, or it manages you. And the impact of this choice cannot be overstated, because it determines whether your life is driven by hesitation or guided by intention. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when mindset, counsel, and courage come together, the entire architecture of your decisions changes. You begin to see yourself not as a passive participant in your story, but as the author shaping its rhythm. You realize that fear is not a full stop but a comma, that advice is not law but perspective, and that happiness is not later. It is alive in the way you walk today. These revelations are not dramatic at first, but over time they accumulate, quietly transforming how you think, how you choose, and how you live. If this reflection resonates with you, write in the comments, "I choose my lens," because putting it into words is a way of reminding yourself that the world you see begins in the way you choose to look at it. The past often tempts us like a film we keep replaying, searching for ways we could have edited the scene, changed the dialogue, or rewritten the ending. But no matter how many times you revisit it, the real doesn't change. The hidden truth is that every moment spent stuck in what already happened is energy stolen from what could still be created. Transformation doesn't come from rewriting yesterday, but from redirecting today. Your power lives in the next step, in the decision you're about to make, not in the ones that have already been taken. Imagine what would happen if all the energy poured into regret or self-blame was instead channeled into overcoming. How much lighter the journey would feel, how much more impact your choices would carry. The effort belongs ahead of you, and when you realize this, the weight of the past begins to loosen its grip. But even as you move forward, you'll encounter a subtle challenge that often goes unnoticed: the projections of others. People constantly cast their own fears, their own insecurities, their own unfinished stories onto those around them. They hand you costumes stitched from their limits, expecting you to wear them as if they belong to you. If you're not careful, you start carrying burdens that were never yours, shaping your life around someone else's script. Building a shield against projections isn't about rejecting people. It's about refusing to accept identities that don't reflect your truth. It's protecting your own narrative from being overwritten by someone else's unresolved journey. And this act of defiance, quiet though it may be, is a powerful form of self-preservation. Behind the scenes, it's one of the most important decisions you'll ever make: the decision to own your story without apology. And when doubts creep in, as they always do, remember this simple but often overlooked revelation: you are stronger than you think. Every time life has tested you, every moment you thought you couldn't endure, you did. You've survived 100% of your worst days, and that track record is unshakable proof of resilience. Strength isn't loud. It doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to rise again, to keep going even when no one is watching, even when nothing makes sense. It's in those hidden moments, the ones behind closed doors, where real courage is forged. And once you recognize this, fear loses some of its hold, because you see clearly that the very fact you're still standing means you're already capable of more than you once believed. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the interplay between releasing the past, guarding against projections, and recognizing your own resilience creates a mindset that transforms everything. It shifts the way you carry yourself, the way you interpret challenges, and the way you design your journey forward. It teaches you that the past cannot dictate you, that others cannot define you, and that weakness cannot truly break you if you keep moving. These are not just abstract ideas. They are tools, anchors, and shields you can carry into every step ahead. If this connects with your own experience, write in the comments, "I own my story," because putting it into words is not only an agreement with the idea, it's a reminder to yourself that no past, no projection, and no challenge is greater than the strength you've already proven you hold. Control is one of the great illusions of life. We spend so much energy trying to manage other people, trying to fix their choices, reshape their patterns, or rescue them from their own storms. Yet the hidden truth is that no matter how much effort you pour into changing someone else, their story remains theirs to write. The only real control you hold is over your own internal landscape, your feelings, your actions, your thoughts. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. When you master your responses instead of trying to dictate someone else's, you reclaim your power. Transformation begins in this quiet shift, where you stop fighting battles that aren't yours and start directing your energy into the only space where impact is possible, within. And once you practice this, you begin to notice how peace grows, not because the world suddenly cooperates, but because you've anchored yourself in what you can actually command. The path, however, is rarely smooth. Hard roads will always appear, sometimes without warning, sometimes stretching farther than you imagined you could walk. But it is on those roads that the greatest revelations occur. Pain, though unwelcome, is often the most honest teacher. It strips away illusions, reveals hidden strengths, and forces you to confront truths you may have avoided. Yet there is an essential distinction. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. You can let obstacles define you, locking you into a narrative of bitterness, or you can let them refine you, shaping resilience, depth, and clarity. Behind the scenes of every strong person you admire, you will find chapters filled with difficult roads. They didn't become who they are in spite of them. They became who they are because of them. And when you recognize this, hardship transforms from an enemy into an instrument. Trusting yourself is the bridge that connects it all. Without trust, you hesitate, you overthink, you second-guess every step. But when you practice trust, when you choose to believe that you have the strength, the resourcefulness, the courage to face whatever comes, your world expands. Courage, after all, is the parent virtue. With it, every other quality you admire, patience, resilience, wisdom, becomes possible. The hidden truth is that courage doesn't erase fear. It walks with it. It doesn't guarantee success. It guarantees movement. And through movement, you discover the strength that only reveals itself once you've already stepped forward. Trusting yourself is like turning on a light in a dark room. It doesn't change what's there, but it gives you the clarity to move through it without stumbling. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when you learn to control only what belongs to you, when you allow hard roads to refine rather than define, and when you trust yourself enough to practice courage daily, you begin to see life differently. You stop feeling like the world is something happening to you and start realizing it is something unfolding with you. This shift in mindset not only changes the way you navigate obstacles, but also the way you experience victories, because both become part of a larger journey of transformation that continues to unfold. If these words resonate with your own journey, I invite you to write in the comments, "I choose courage," not just as a phrase, but as a personal reminder that you hold the power to direct your focus inward, to embrace the difficult paths as teachers, and to step forward trusting that courage will always carry you farther than fear. Risk is one of those words that makes the heart race, carrying both fear and possibility in equal measure. But the hidden truth is that growth has always been tied to risk. Every new level of your journey will ask for a new version of you, and the standards you once thought were enough suddenly demand more. This isn't a punishment. It's the natural rhythm of transformation. Each risk, when chosen thoughtfully, stretches your capacity and reshapes your mindset. It teaches you that comfort zones aren't homes, they're waiting rooms. To step forward is to gamble with the unknown, but without that leap, there is no expansion. Behind the scenes of every breakthrough is a risk someone dared to take, and the reward isn't always immediate, but it always alters you. The lesson here is not to throw yourself blindly into danger, but to weigh risks with clarity. Embrace them with courage, and allow them to raise the standard of who you're becoming. At the same time, part of that growth comes from protecting what is sacred. Privacy has a weight many underestimate in an age of constant sharing. We live in a world where exposure is celebrated, where showing every detail of your process feels like proof of authenticity. Yet the quiet power lies in what remains unseen. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your struggles, your ideas, your plans. Privacy is not secrecy, it's strategy. It is knowing that your energy leaks when too many eyes are on your unfinished work. The impact of holding things close is that you give them space to mature without the noise of projection, doubt, or distraction. The revelation is simple. By sharing less than you think, you protect more than you realize. Privacy builds strength behind the scenes, ensuring that when you do reveal your work, it comes from a place of solidity rather than vulnerability. But growth and privacy alone will not carry you forward without discipline. Motivation is fickle. It comes in waves, fueled by emotion, easily drowned by fatigue or doubt. Discipline, however, is steady. It is the quiet engine that doesn't need applause to keep moving. Every small promise you keep to yourself, every time you show up when you don't feel like it, becomes a brick in the foundation of unshakable self-trust. The hidden truth is that transformation isn't about rare bursts of inspiration, but about the daily grind of consistency. It's in waking up and doing the work, not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. That integrity with yourself is what builds the strength to carry bigger risks, to protect your privacy, to rise to new standards. Discipline is the behind-the-scenes force that makes success look effortless on the outside, even though it is anything but. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when risk, privacy, and discipline intertwine, the journey takes on a different shape. You begin to realize that every level you reach requires thoughtful courage, guarded energy, and consistent effort. These elements together create a life that is not just reactive, but deliberate, not just lived, but crafted. They form the architecture of real transformation, the kind that isn't fragile or fleeting, but grounded and enduring. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, I choose discipline, not just as a phrase, but as a personal anchor to remind yourself that steady steps, guarded energy, and courageous risks are the true builders of a life you can be proud of. In a world obsessed with quick results and instant gratification, it's easy to believe that moving faster means you're making progress. But the hidden truth is that speed without direction is nothing more than chaos disguised as productivity. What truly matters is not how fast you move, but whether the steps you take are aligned with where you want to go. Direction is the compass. Speed is only the pace. Go slow if you must, because a deliberate step forward is infinitely more powerful than 100 frantic sprints in circles. The journey is not a race. It's a construction. Transformation doesn't demand you to be the fastest. It requires you to be steady, intentional, and unafraid of progress that feels quiet and unseen. When you trust the path rather than the pace, consistency becomes your ally, and over time, the impact of those steady steps far outweighs the illusion of quick wins. This perspective naturally leads to one of the most liberating revelations. The life you want is not something to be postponed, waiting for a better moment, more resources, or perfect clarity. The life you want must begin now, in the small but intentional choices you make today. Today is the only time you can actually touch, the only piece of the future that is already in your hands. Too often, people delay their happiness, telling themselves they will begin once things align, once they feel ready, once everything is in place. But the secret is that alignment happens in motion. Readiness is built in the doing, not in the waiting. The act of starting creates momentum, and that momentum shapes the opportunities that meet you along the way. The hidden architecture of building a life is not about grand gestures, but about stacking daily actions that mirror the vision you hold for yourself. You don't need to know the entire map. You need only to take the next step in the right direction. Acting today, even imperfectly, plants seeds that your future self will thank you for. Adjustments will come, challenges will appear, but none of that diminishes the power of starting now. The life you want is not a distant dream. It is being built behind the scenes every time you decide to live in alignment with it today. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when direction becomes more important than speed, and when you commit to building the life you want in the present moment, rather than postponing it, something profound shifts in your mindset. You begin to understand that life is not waiting for you to catch up. It is unfolding in real time. The only question is whether you will participate as a deliberate creator or remain a passive observer. This realization is not just motivation. It is a call to awaken to the hidden truth that your future is shaped not by distant plans, but by the decisions you make right here, right now. If this resonates with you, I invite you to anchor it with a phrase in the comments. I start today, because writing it down is more than agreement. It's a declaration that you refuse to wait for the perfect conditions, and instead choose to create momentum in this very moment. If you've made it all the way here, I'm glad we could share this journey together. These reflections are meant to give you tools, perspectives, and that little spark of clarity you can carry into your own life. If you feel this content adds value to your days, consider subscribing that way every time we dive into themes like this. You'll already be part of the conversation. And if you're still here with me, let me know in the comments by writing, "I'm with you until the end." It's a simple way for me to see who's walking this path alongside me. Don't forget to leave a like as well. It's always encouraging to know these words are resonating on the other side of the screen. And if you want to keep going, there's a video right here that complements this topic beautifully. Click and continue with me over there.